Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to a new video. Just while this project loads up, effectively what I want to do is I released a video a few weeks ago regarding some sort of stepped grid movement system, and the way that we use the sort of we make like a conversion to step movement by a certain amount, sort of to create a grid movement. But I want to use the same sort of idea to try and make like a building system. This is going to be somewhat inspired from stuff like Rust or like Ark Survival Evolved, where you can build elements within the world. Now I'm going to keep this very basic. I'm just going to do a wall, and then I may build on it a little bit, but I just want to sort of, I guess this is how to sort of start a building system, because there's tons of ways to do this, but I'm gonna have a go at using sort of like a stepped system, in terms of we're gonna limit it to so many cells across. I'm not 100% sure how it's gonna play out. If it doesn't work, this video is never gonna get released. But if it does somewhat work, then I'll probably release it, because there should be enough in there to benefit people, and then if it gets enough interest, then I might build on top of it. But it's just really to cast an idea of sort of a workflow, as well as an end result of being able to build basic things. So let's get started. So I've got a third person template open. I guess you could do this with a first person as well. There's nothing to stop you from doing that, but I'm going to go for third person. What I am going to do is I'm just going to open up the blueprint for the third person character, tag that to the top. Again, as I do all the time, editor preferences, I'm going to change the editor open asset location to main window. That way when I open things, they're just going to tab themselves to the top. And what I'm also going to do is I'm probably going to create a heads up display. So we'll go to user interfaces, widget blueprint, user widget, and I'm going to put this as WBP underscore HUD for my HUD widget. And to be honest, actually I should probably put that in a folder, so I'm just going to pull this HUD, and then drag that into my folder, move here. We'll open that up. Keep this very, very basic. Go to panels, canvas panel, and then I'm going to chuck an image on. I'm going to change the anchor of the image to the center. I'm going to set my position to 0, my Y position to 0, tab down to alignment, change that to 0.5 on both so it centers it perfectly. I'm then going to change the size to 15 and 15, and that's just going to put a square in the middle of the window. This is going to act as an extremely basic crosshair. I'm then going to go back to my third person character. I've closed the widget because I'm not going to do anything else to it. What do we want to do? Off the event begin play, right at the end here, I'm just going to say let's create a widget, and I'm probably going to move my mic so I don't end up bashing it into it as much. Create widget. Once we've created that widget, we're going to promote that to a variable. I'm going to name this one HUD, so you can see that there's HUD, and then from that I'm going to add it to the viewport. And then don't forget to select your widget class, so select WBP HUD, hit compile, hit play, and you can see now we've got a large square in the center of the screen. So I guess now what I want to do is slightly offset my camera. So I'm going to move the camera and not the swing arm or the camera boom, because if you move the camera boom, it's a bit weird when you move. If you try it, it'll make sense what I mean, but effectively I'm going to move this up a little bit. And why is that so small? I'm going to move this up a little bit, maybe to a height of 60, and I'm going to move it to the right, I guess, by maybe 30. Let's just see how that looks. That should be enough. That's just enough where the character's not in the way of the crosshair, and that's absolutely fine. The next thing I want to do, I'm going to need to get sort of like a line trace into the world, just so that we can capture sort of that hit result. So I'm going to come down to the bottom of my blueprint here, and what I'm going to do to speed things up is I'm just going to use the B key, for example. Keyboard. I'm not going to make an input action and add it into the enhanced system. I'm going to be a bit lazy and just hard code the B key. And I just want to set up a line trace by channel. Just to get this started. I am going to edit this. I think I'm going to need to put this on sort of like a timer or on a tick, just so it's constantly getting wherever I'm looking. But just for testing, I'm just going to chuck it on the B key just for starters. So my start position, I'm going to get player camera manager. This node returns the camera active on this player, which is going to be the camera we've just moved, which will be the follow cam. You could technically drag it out, but this is a bit more universal. I'm going to get the actor location, which will return where it is in the world. That's going to be my start location. Then what I need to do is I need to get this location, find out which direction is forward for my camera, which way am I pointing, which way am I looking, add a bit of distance to that, and then set it as an offset from this. So that's also quite easy. But let's get that forward vector, which will give us which way are we looking. So actor forward vector. From that, I need to multiply this to add some distance to it. So I'm just going to add a multiply node and then change this bottom value to a float. I'm going to put maybe 1,000 on this. That's going to keep it relatively close, which means, how far away you can build something is somewhat limited with this. And then we need to add them two values together to create that offset. So this location plus our offset equals our end location. I don't want to spend too much time making stuff neat, but I think I say that every video and then end up doing it anyway. I just want to change the draw debug type to figuration just so we can test it out. So I'm just going to press compile, and hopefully if I hit B, we should get a line that's going to hit where our marker is. Yep. So if I point here, point here, point here, point here. So the good news is that's working exactly fine. Now, when I press B, I'm going to be entering build mode. So we probably want to... I'll put this on a timer now, actually, I think. So let's pull this down here. When I press B, I want to start the timer. So set timer by event. Now, the reason I'm going to use a timer is because, obviously, putting this on a tick, that means like every 0.2 of a second or something like that, or even quicker. Depends on your sort of frame rate and stuff. It's going to be firing a trace into the world, and it doesn't really need to be that quick for a building mode. So that's fine. So we'll do a timer by event. It's going to be a custom event. And it's going to be like, I don't know, spawn prop, something like that. Spawn prop, plug that into there. We can actually remove this second line now. I want it to loop, and I want it to loop every 0.2 of a second, maybe. That should be fine. And before we continue, I'm just going to, the return value from a timer, if you promote this to a variable, that'll allow you to sort of cancel this timer from other places, which we'll get to. But we'll promote that, and we'll just put, I don't know, spawn timer, something like that, or build timer, something that's in regards to this. Then what we can do is we can get the spawn timer, we can say clear and invalidate, which is effectively stop. Maybe not when we release. What might be a good idea is from the pressed, let's use a flip-flop. Now, a flip-flop, if you've never used a flip-flop, is when I press the button, it'll go through A. When I press B again, it'll then go through B. So, effectively, it's like a toggle in effect. So, when I press B, we're going to go in build mode. We're going to start this timer. We're going to spawn, not spawn. We're going to create this line trace. And then if I press B again, it's going to cancel that happening. So, if we hit play now, Press B, you can see that line is now going in the world, and to be honest, that seems fine. The time seems fine. If I press B again, we shouldn't get any more lines, which we don't, so that works for that. What should we do next? I guess we need to spawn a wall or something in the world. So I guess from here we'll do a spawn actor from class, which means we're going to have to make our wall, which will be fine. Let's do that now. Let's go. That's going to complain because it needs a transform, but we'll deal with that in just a sec. I'm going to go back to my blueprints. I'm going to go back to my content. I'm going to right click, new folder, building. Now I've got two content browsers open, and I'm going to make the benefit of that. If you want to also have two content browsers open, if you go to Window, Content Browsers, and select Browser 2, that should open up a second one. Depending on how you've got yours set up, you might have this sort of like toggle menu from Control Space. If you want to dock it, just press Dock. I'm not too sure how two content browsers works with that. I don't think it will. But effectively, I've docked my first one, and then I just put my second one next to it. So what I can do is I can have all my building stuff here, and I can leave my third-person blueprint open on this side, and it'll just make it a bit easier to navigate. Anyway, so in my building now, I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to create a blueprint class. It's going to be an actor. I'm going to call this BP_wall. Open that up. So what do we need? We need a wall. I'll tell you what we'll do. I'm thinking ahead of things here, and if I was to sort of add in a static mesh, which is fine, we want that, and then if we pick, I don't know, something like cube, just a cube, have I crashed, or does that not exist? Oh, never mind, it was too big. So at the moment, that cube has its pivot in the center, and I think that's going to be a problem for me because it's going to spawn sort of like halfway in the world. So what I'm thinking might be a better idea is if we actually just create one with the pivot in the right place. So to do that, I'm going to go into building mode, modeling mode, sorry, not building mode, modeling mode, which I didn't even pick. Modeling mode, I'm going to pick a box. I'm going to change my width to 200, my height to 200, and my depth to 20. What does that look like? That's a bit too thick, so let's go for 10. And that's not updated, I don't think, is it? Nope, that didn't update. 10, how does that look? I'm just going to check its depth. Yeah, 10 looks okay. So I've gone 2 meters high, 2 meters wide, and I guess that's 10 centimeters wide. Yeah, so that works for me. So I'm going to click there in the world, and luckily for me, I think the pivot's already put itself where I want it to be, so that saves me having to modify that. So we'll accept that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to browse to the asset, because it creates like a generated location for assets that are generated. And what I'm going to do is I'm literally going to copy that to my building folder. So my building folder is just here. I'm going to drag that, click it, put it there, and I'm just going to say copy there. Yep. So we've got our wall and we've got our model. I'm just going to fix my models here. I'm going to go back to my selection mode. I'm going to fix my content browsers, to be honest. I'm going to now go back to my building folder for this window, and I'm just going to go back to my third person blueprints on that side. So as you can see, we've got this box and some random numbers. I'm going to press F2 to rename it, and I'm just going to call this wall_mesh. And I guess actually I should abbreviate that, not abbreviate that, prefix this with SM for static mesh _ wall mesh. You could create a folder for meshes as well, I guess. So meshes, and drag that in there, move there. Sweet. So let's go back into our BP wall. Aesthetic mesh is selected, and I'm going to type in SM. Is it there? No, underscore wall. So there we go, SM wall. So you can see now that my actor's sort of scene route is now exactly at the bottom of this wall, which is great. Thinking about it, I probably want to make the wall itself the seam route. Now it's the right size, and I'm happy with that. And I'm just going to change the element 0 material to something like basic shape. I think that's one of the default. Yep, so just a white wall. That's fine for me. Hit compile. Yeah, that looks good for me for now. So let's work with that. So now we can go back to our third person character, and we can select the class we want to spawn, which is going to be BP wall. So we still need a spawn transform. What's going to be a good idea for that? So obviously our line trace already is creating this hit result. Let's just break this and see what information we can have. So hit actor, we've got this location. To be honest, I think we're going to have to break this transform down into its parts. So on your transform, we're going to right click, split that. So where do we want our location to be? It's probably going to be that location. What rotation do we want? Good point. What rotation do we want? We probably want the same rotation as the player. So whichever way we are rotated, we want the wall to rotate. We want the transform scale to always be 1:1, just so that it doesn't look unusual. So hit compile. So because we've broke that down now and we've given it some information, that's going to work fine, I think. Spawn location is going to be that. Let's just see what that looks like. Let's just see what happens. Oh yeah, let's delete our example wall out of the world. We don't need that anymore. Hit play. Hit B. Okay, that's disastrous, because obviously we're doing that 100 times. Okay, that was a bad test to do, to be honest. So, what do we want to do? We want to do that once. So every time this is running, it's updating our sort of aim location, but we only want to spawn one wall. So that's going to be fine. What do we want to do for the rotation? What do we want to do for the rotation? So we could get the player's rotation. We could get the player's rotation. Is that going to work? Is that going to work? Well, let's see what that looks like. Actor location. So get actor rotation. No, rotation. Get actor's rotation. And no, it's not going to be the actor. It's going to be the camera, isn't it? It's going to be our camera rotation. Interesting. So, just for testing, let me say get actor rotation. Now, thinking about it, if we split this, obviously we don't want to be able to tilt up and down, because that's going to make our things really weird. We're really only going to need the Z rotation, in my mind. Because effectively what that's going to be is, if I can click into this. Oh yeah, we can't, because... Let me go into the world. Let me just drag this in. We only really want to rotate that way. Because if our camera's looking downwards, we don't want the wall to be like that. And vice versa, we don't want that to happen either. So let's get rid of that. Realistically, we only want the Z. So let's plug that in. let's just see what happens there. Obviously it's only going to do that once. So Z, yeah, that kind of worked. That kind of works. I'm going to set the reset based on us deactivating that. So if we turn it on, it's going to spawn 1. If we turn it off, it's going to reset that. So hopefully if we press it again. So B, 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 B. Obviously that's not ideal. That's not what we're going to do. But okay, that somewhat works. However, we don't want slanted walls like that. We want to keep things somewhat square, in my mind anyway. Yeah, because I want to use the grid. I want to use like a grid system. So what I should do is, let's create a macro and let's try and limit it to every 90 degrees. So we'll go to macro. I think a macro is probably going to be a good idea. I'll put stepped spawn rotation. Stepped spawn rotation. Do we want to do a vector or do we just want to go straight for a float? Let's go for a float. I guess we could do a vector, then it's a bit more universal, but realistically we're only going to use it in this example. So you could do a vector and then just cancel out the other two and then return a vector, but I think it just makes sense to use a float. So we'll just put in rotate. Oh, I guess it's a rotator. I don't know if it makes that much of a difference. I guess it'll save us splitting it. Yeah, let's do that. In rotation. Let's change this from a float to a rotator. Yeah. And then for an output, we're going to do the same. So we're going to put out rotation. Out rotation. Yeah, compile that. That's fine. And to be honest, we're going to split it in here anyway, because we don't care about the other two. So we want to limit this by 90 degrees. So we're going to take this value, we're going to divide that by 90. We're then going to round that figure, so then we only get a whole number. So it's either going to be 1 times 90, so it'll be 90 degrees, 2 times 90, 180, and so on and so forth. We don't want anything in between. So we'll round that. Then we're going to multiply that by 90. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to promote this to a variable. Do I want to promote it to a local variable? Do I really want to delete it? Yeah, get rid of that. Oh, you can't make a local variable inside a macro. Never mind. So we will promote that to a variable. It's functions that you can make local variables. Anyway, stepped amount. Actually, if that's a variable, I should make that a little bit more descriptive. Stepped rot amount. Stepped rot amount. I'm going to compile just so I can change the default value. Change that to 90. Hit compile one more time just so it's there. Then I want to drag that value back out and plug that into there. That converts that. So we're taking our rotation in, dividing it by 90, rounding that up to the nearest whole number. Then we're timesing it by the rotation amount, which gives us a solid 90 every time. And that's pretty much it, I think. And we're going to leave the rest of them at 0. And because this is a macro, there's no execute line, which is neat. Hit compile, go back to the event graph, and let's drag our macro out. And let's just... Oh yeah, we need the rotator now, don't we? So let's disconnect this this green line, recombine this, plug that into our in rotation, and obviously we need to recombine this side. Plug that into there. So what we've got at this point is our rotation of our camera. It's going to go through this macro, which is going to strip out the X and Y for us, but it's going to do the calculation on every 90 degrees for our Z location. That's going to output that and plug it into our wall. So if we, I tell you what, if we just remove this do once for now, just for testing, it's going to look horrendous. We're going to have walls all over the place, but it'll be fine. We'll be able to get the point of what we're doing. Hit B, wall, 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 wall. Yeah, so that's right. So only when I turn more than 90 degrees to one side. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, let's cancel that. So as you could see then, as I was facing forward, as I was tilting more to the side, as soon as it got to a 90 degree, it then switched the asset to another angle, which is exactly what I want. So that sort of step spawn rotation's working for me. But in theory, we actually want to do the same for our location in the world, because at the moment it's just going wherever it wants. So let's create another macro, and let's call this stepped spawn location. And for our input, I guess we'll use a locator. A vector. Let's go in location. Change that to a vector. In vector, which is more descriptive, and then an out vector. Out vector. Okay, so pretty much the same thing. Are we going to want to... I guess we don't... Do we need to split this one? I don't think we do. I don't think we do. Recombine. Is this going to work though? Is this going to work? Can we just divide that? Can we then change that to a float? So divide that by, I guess what value we're going to pick for this. Let's promote this to a variable. So let's go stepped lock amount. What do we want to limit this by? $100? Every 100? Are we then going to want to round? Ooh, I don't know if we want to do this. Let's just disconnect that for now. Change that to a float. Just change that to a float. I'm going to split it. I'm going to split it because I don't actually know if we want to adjust the height. Not too sure. So, X in. Let's duplicate that. Y in. I guess they both don't need this same thing. Let's just do that. Yeah, divide. Round. Multiply. And we want the stepped amount again. Plug that into there. Plug that into there. And then split this out vector, split, and that's going to become our X, and that's going to be our Y, and then our Z. I'm just going to connect it straight up, to be honest, and let's just see what that does. I'm thinking that'll keep the height wherever we want, but because of the line trace is going to hit the ground, it should be alright. And I'm just thinking if we then go like up a hill, it'll be somewhat right. Let's try that. So disconnect this location, our stepped spawn location, plug in the location that we hit, and let's give that a try. So okay, that looks a little bit aggressive, so let's go ahead and just fix the next bit. It looked somewhat right, but let's do the next bit. What we're going to want to do, obviously we don't want to spawn a wall every single time, that's a little bit disastrous, but what we might want to do is spawn one and then just move that one around, maybe in the same loop. So let me just get a bit more space. We want to do that once, so then this isn't going to run anymore. So we want to do, I'm going to assume a sequence just before it. So if you've never used a sequence before, effectively it'll be do this. Once that's finished, do that. So what's going to happen is this is going to go through, this is going to hit that do once, that's going to spawn the wall. The next time it comes around to do it, it's going to go to the do once. The do once is going to say, nah, you can't go any further, and it's just going to go to the then. Which is good for us because it'll just run this next code here, this next blueprint. So what do we want to do? So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to save what we've spawned as a reference. So promote that to a variable, and spawned actor, or prop I guess might be the word I used earlier. Prop, spawned prop. Then what we want to do is we want to get our spawned prop. We want to set transform, set actor transform. We want to break this down, and we want to use this information again. So I don't know if it's worth promoting these to a variable, so then we don't have to run wires all the way across. Actually, I tell you what we could do is just select these like that, copy those, paste them down here. Obviously I'm going to tidy this up a little bit, just drag that back over here like that. So I'm getting the camera manager, getting the actor rotation, sending it through our macro, and that's going to plug into that like that. What else have we got? Obviously our location. I'm actually going to backtrack a little bit here. I'm actually going to delete this break hit result, and I'm actually going to promote this hit result to a variable. I'm going to keep it as out hit because, well, technically that's what it is, and I don't think I'm going to have another line trace. I don't think I need one. And then from that, what I can do is out hit get, and then I guess that's going to be location. No? Do I have to break it again? Interesting. Let's now close that. I guess technically from here I could just connect that, but down here I'm not going to do that. So out break hit, out hit break hit result. Get my location. I actually need my stepped spawn location. So macros, if you didn't know, you don't have to just drag them from there. They will come up in your context menu when you're searching for stuff. So then we'll plug that into that. So my theory is what's going to happen is this is going to spawn once because we've told it to only do this once, and then after that we're going to sort of transform this actor over and over and over again. Just to make this look a little bit neater, I'm going to reroute this this execute, so that's nice and straight, and it might be worth doing that for this because I feel like we're going to end up moving this out of the way. Yep, so let's try this. So what I'm hoping is we're going to spawn a wall, and then we're going to update that every tick until we decide that we're going to place it in the world, which then I guess we're going to need to move. We're going to need to stop moving it, which we'll get to that. So let's press play. Hit B. So I've only got one. Interesting. So I don't know. Maybe we do want. Do we want to limit that to every 100? I feel like we don't, but because like. Oh, I know what's happening. The line trace is actually hitting the wall itself. Ah, anyway, we'll fix that in just a sec. But if we turn sideways, the wall matches our anticipated rotation, which is absolutely fine. I like that, and it's somewhat limiting itself to every grid line. I like that. I like that. This is working to a point. What time are we on now? 35 minutes. Let's carry on. So what was happening then? The line trace was actually hitting the wall itself. So let's go to this static mesh, and I think what's probably a good idea is if we set the collision profile to... Actually, let's just check something. From our spawned prop, get that, set collision response to all channels. What have we got here? Block, ignore overlap. So I guess once we've placed it in the world, we want to change this. So that's fine. Once we've placed it, it's fine. So collision to all things. Let's set it to custom, and let's set it to overlap all. That way we can get an overlap event if we want it. But at the moment, actually, that being said, I guess it can block. No, let's leave it to overlap because I've got an idea of something. But let's set the the trace response of visibility to ignore. If my theory is correct, now when we spawn one, yeah, so it's not jumping around now. Because effectively what was happening is, as it spawns, it was sort of colliding with itself. So now, here, the line trace is now going through the wall, and it's getting its closest position, but earlier it was actually hitting the wall itself. So that's fine. Obviously, we need to remember when we spawn, when we've actually completed our placement, that we set that back to block everything. So that's fine. I'm just going to go into the event graph here, just put a comment. I'm just going to put block all when placed. Little note to myself there. Put it in pink. Nice and visible. So that's fine. I guess we should actually start to do the placement so we can put it down. Right, so where are we going to put that? So this tick, trigger, trigger, trigger. I want to do a left mouse button for actually placing it in the world. Where's an appropriate place to put this? Let's go left mouse button. There we go, left mouse button. So, how are we going to do this? So this is only running, all of this is running for as long as we haven't built it. So we don't want that to run afterwards. We want that to sort of like set. Well, actually, if we reset this, that's going to spawn a new wall, which is going to spawn a new prop, which means this is no longer going to update this prop. So, in that case, in theory, I'm wondering if I could just set this to reset. So if I plug that into there, which I guess I could actually just plug into this reroute node. When I click, this is all going to reset. Let's just see what happens. B, click, click, click. Now obviously, when we're placing it, it's still got its collision settings as not great, but to be honest, obviously, the wall that we've created isn't a building material. So these corners are overlapping a little bit. But I guess if you make an actual brick wall prop with sort of like edges which fit together nicely, I'm happy with that, to be honest. a starter video. Yep, I'm quite happy with that, to be honest, for now. Let's just do some extra quality of life. So, obviously, we need to enable the collisions. So, what might be a good idea is, let's go to our wall. Let's create a boolean, actually, called placed. I don't really want to put it on a tick. I don't think that'd be a good idea. Let's do another event timer and see if that's a good way of doing it. So, custom event, check placement. So we can set this to 0.2 looping, so it's not quite as quick as a tick, and it will end when we're happy with it. I guess what we want to do is promote that to a variable and put checker timer handle, and at some point we're going to want to end that. Block all when placed, that's what we're going to do. We're going to grab our static mesh, which is this, our wall, set collision response to all channels to block. That's fine, let's put that in. And after we've done that, oh, actually, no, we don't want to do that. Well, we do, but we don't want to do it that quick. This timer is going to keep running until our placed, nope, not a set, we want to do a check, get a branch. Yeah, I knew we were missing something. So, if our placed is true, then we want to do that. If it remains false, this is just going to keep ticking over, you know, I'm not placed yet, I'm not placed yet, I'm not placed yet, but then when it is placed, this is going to return true. Once it's placed, obviously we don't want this this timer to keep running forever because it's pointless, so we do a clear and invalidate. So this timer is just going to keep ticking on until we place it. So it's only going to run for as long as we're walking around with the wall. As soon as we place it, this is going to sort of fix itself. I can delete that message now because we're doing what we've said we should. Hit player, go to B, make a wall, make a wall, make a wall. Press B, we don't have any line traces anymore. Can we run through it? We can still run through it. Interesting. So that hasn't worked as expected. So select my static mesh, scroll down. Interesting. I guess we could just set it to no collision instead and leave it on block all. Could we do that? I'm not sure why that didn't work, to be honest. So overlap, ignore, save. Oh, I know why it didn't work. Because we didn't actually set placed to true. Well, that should have been obvious, shouldn't it? So when we press our left mouse button, our spawned prop, get that, let's say it's got placed on it, because they all will. Set that to true. And then reset. So place that. Can I run through it? I can't run through it. Right, so it was working. Or not. access none trying to read the property spawned. Okay, that makes sense. So what I think's happened there is, if I click now, my left mouse button's trying to set the placed property to true on a prop that doesn't exist. So now as you can see, I've just been clicking like mad. All of these are where I've tried clicking set place, and this spawned prop doesn't exist yet because I've not entered building mode. So what we should do is an is valid. Go for an is valid, just to make sure. Well, only try this if there is a spawned prop. I guess in a sense it could be a safer measure to put one in here where we're trying to get a reference to it. Here there has to be one. I guess if anything went really bad and this somehow went down here when this had not run, I guess you could do an is valid there. I feel like that's unlikely because we're entering build mode and it has to go through that, but especially this one. If we press now, click as much as we want, exit that, we don't get any errors now because that's always going to exist. So we can click that, click that, click that, click that, exit building mode, and apart from me doubling up that wall, I'm trapped actually. So that's that. I quite like that. I'm starting to think on this steps location that we might actually want to do the same on the Z or the Z. Purely because I can build walls inside walls. Unless we check to see if we're already inside a wall. What time are we on now? 46. This video is getting a little bit too long, but I think for a starting point of, you know, we've got some form of building system here. I quite like that. I'm actually going to go back to my event graph and turn my draw debug type to none because I don't want to see that mess anymore. But now when I enter building mode, I can build myself a little fort. And obviously you can build other pieces. You can build some roof pieces. So you can see here that I can sort of, you can't see because I've just blocked myself in, but if I build some here like that, see how this is allowing me to just build anywhere on top of it. If I set the Z to 200, it'll only build on top. I guess we could also set up snap points where when I'm aiming at this, if there's a sort of, if I have the ability to build above it, it'd snap above it and snap to the side. I guess that's something that we could work on. But for just using sort of like that stepped system where we're sort of breaking things into parts and only allowing, I don't say it's fractional, but limited rotation, so it's limited by 90 degrees only, or our location can only be every 100 from where we are. I think this is a good starting point. So hopefully in the midst of all of this, you've learned something. There's going to be things I've not tried, so there's probably going to be bugs. But if someone's got an idea for a building system, this might be a start. There's no sort of really hard-coded references. You know, we only ever reference actors that we've spawned ourselves. Obviously, the wall can handle itself. We can do other things, like, I'll just quickly throw in a few extra things that I think would work. If we add in a box collision on this one, and let's just change its size to, let's see if I can get this done in a minute. I didn't want it to be longer than 50 minutes, but it's alright. Let's change that to 10. Let's change this to, is it 100? Yeah, by 100, something like that. I'm then going to change its location by up to 100, I think it is. Move it up by 100. So now it's overlapping the whole thing. Compile. I'm going to scroll down until I see on component begin overlap. So with that, what we could do is, let's get our static mesh. I want to try something. Set material Let's find something red. That's funny, you'd expect when you type red and you get red stuff, but I guess. So MI cube, that'll do. If it's overlapping something, set it to red. I guess you should check to see if it's not yourself. That'd probably make sense. And then again on end overlap, we probably want to set the material to the white colour. So that's going to be basic shape, something like that. What do we want to connect it to? It's going to be that. Let them share. Compile. This might go really bad because it's going to sort of overlap with everything. Let's just check the collisions. QuickTime. So overlap all dynamic. So it is going to overlap everything. Let's just try. Let's just see what happens. Hit B. It's going to be red because it's obviously overlapping itself. So if the... Let's just check something. Actually, I don't want... I was going to say let's check some stuff, but I don't want to add too much time to it. But effectively, it's probably that it's overlapping itself. Let's just go B. So yeah, it's overlapping itself. BP wall. So you know, if it's not equal self, self branch. So you can either put a not in here, or you can just do a branch. You know, if this actor is equal or self is false. Let's try that. Hopefully this works now. So yeah, but as soon as I collide with something else, oh, so it almost works. So there we go. It's detecting. What's it detecting there? Oh, it's detecting me. Now, obviously, these walls are static meshes, so they're not actually actors, so it's not triggering it. But if I go and stand near it, oh, okay, that's a problem. But you can see there, you could, as I'm putting these two together now, it's not working. But maybe if I put it on the corner, it will work. No, it won't. So what might be a good idea is let's just change this size, maybe not from 100 to sort of like 95, just so the corners are not covered. Build one of them. Let's go here. No, almost, not quite. Something's overlapping. Let's change that to 90. Obviously, I've not tested this, so please don't hold me to this. So that's working. But obviously what's not working is the fact that it's working after the script runs. So I guess what we could do to be really sure that that's not going to do that afterwards is we could get our box component and destroy component. So once it's been placed, we'll actually remove that collision box altogether so it can't adjust its color, and that should prevent any of these scripts from running, because it won't exist. I guess the other thing we could do as well, to be 100% sure that we're not going to be left with a red shape, copy and paste that, so once it's placed it sets itself to white. Obviously you don't want to be able to place something if it's red, so you could probably work with that. Sort of like you could set up a boolean here, like is it colliding, and then from this script this placement won't run. You know, if that's colliding is true, don't let this happen. But you know, let's just check this out. Go to B. Can I run into it and make it red anymore? No, I can't, but obviously the one that I've got in my hands will. Don't like that. Yeah, but if I put it in the middle, it's like it's going to flash up. So I quite like that. What have we got here? We've got will not destroy. Why is that? Because we didn't deactivate that script. Oh dear. Make sure you put everything up. You connect everything together. Obviously, I didn't clear that timer then, so the timer was continuing to run after all this has been destroyed, and then it can only destroy it once because it doesn't exist after that. So I hope there was some useful information in this video. This was kind of like a build with me kind of thing. It wasn't intended to be a guide, but hopefully you can learn something from it. We're nearly at an hour now, so if you've watched it this far, thank you, and well done, I guess. And I hope this video was worth watching. I've got to go look through it again before deciding whether I should post it or not. But if I do post it, yeah, thanks for getting to the end. If you do want to support the channel or help me out or anything like that, consider giving the video a like if you did like it. Subscribe if you want to watch other things like this. There is now channel memberships now. It's I've kept it as cheap as possible, ideally to the price of a coffee. So it's like keep me going. Caffeine definitely keeps me going. Your support will be definitely appreciated. If you want to talk to me, or if you want help with anything else, either pop a comment down below or join the Discord server. There's quite a few people there, and typically other people will chip in and try and help if I'm not available. I am more available in Discord than I am in the YouTube comments, because sometimes there seems to be a bit of a delay between you commenting and me actually getting a notification that you have. So Discord's definitely a quicker way of getting my attention. But I feel like I've talked enough now. We've almost hit that hour mark. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Cheers.